Hello, friends. Welcome back to Stylist Soul Tribe Conversations. I am joined today by Shannon DeMont. Shannon is a hairstylist and professional photographer on a mission to empower hairstylists to attract their dream clients and brands through taking incredible photos and videos. She's a homeschooling mom of 4 boys and the creator of the Hair Photography Academy. Hello, Shannon. I feel like this has been a long time coming.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here and thank you for that introduction. Yes, life is wild. It's good.
Yeah, so for homeschooling 4 boys, how old are they? What is that life situation like? Because I can't even imagine.
So, my oldest right now is 9. I have
Okay.
9, 7, 4, and then almost 2.
Oh,
And
girl, are you tired?
I am pretty tired. We started homeschooling during COVID
Mhm.
because it was such a crazy time. Like, I didn't want my son to be joining kindergarten on a
Mhm.
tablet for 8 hours a day at home. It
Yeah.
just sounded crazy. So,
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? We're just going to try it and we're going to see how it
Fair.
goes. I never imagined trying it, but everybody kind of around me was doing it and I have loved it. And
Wow.
I have to say, it's been a really great balance with
Mm.
working because
Yeah.
we read together in the morning, we talk about like a
Mhm.
topic. So, right now, for example, talking about South America, we learn about South America, we learn about a specific country and place, and then
Mhm.
they break off and do their own age appropriate work. And
Amazing.
while they're doing that, I set up my tablet
It's like
and
accountability for you too.
yeah,
You're like, this is
exactly.
co-working time.
Yes, exactly. And that's when I get a lot of my
Amazing.
business stuff done. So it's been great.
Incredible.
Yeah.
My youngest is 9, so I have a 12-year-old girl, and then Benny is 9, my boy, and he was in preschool too when everything was happening with COVID. And I remember like my husband and I being concerned when, especially the cloth mask era, because it started with like the paper masks, and then we were trying to be eco-friendly. There was the cloth mask, and it was hard to find some for their little faces. I remember Ryan and I being worried that Bennett's ears were going to be permanently pulled forward from his mask because that was a moment in time. And I look back on those preschool graduation videos and pictures. And oh my God, what a weird moment in time. It's crazy that we're like, oh, what going on 6 years since that? It's just wild. So that's, I think a lot of people did. I wasn't as strong as you, where I even thought I could take that on. We just totally did e-learning and then went back to it. But I do think a lot of people probably homeschooled them. So do you think through graduation, like high school graduation, you're going to do this, or do you have any plan for how
Oh,
old?
we just go year by year. Yeah.
Yeah,
I will
just feel it
totally leave it
out
up to them. Yeah.
as it's working, as it makes sense.
Right.
I have a couple clients that homeschool their kids and they love it. So that is absolutely amazing. I love it. Okay. So I have known Shannon not super well, but kind of well. I have all these internet friends, right? I feel like I know you, but even better than some other people in kind of the Thriver sphere. But I feel like you've been in my world for many years now, which is wild with how long, social media has been around. We haven't super duper connected, just the two of us. So I don't know your whole story, but I do vividly remember seeing, the timeline better. But when you announced that you were fully stepping away from behind the chair and going into education, I remember seeing that and being like, hell yeah, good for her. So I guess, will you tell your story a little bit? What brought you to the industry, whatever feels appropriate, into this niche of education, making that final decision to step away from behind the chair, kind of to where you are today, and then I'll interrupt you 17,000 times and we'll just jam, okay?
Sounds great. Sounds
Okay.
great. So
Yeah.
I joined the industry. I went to high school for cosmetology. So I
Mhm.
learned how to do cosmetology in high school. I graduated with a license. Actually, this is a crazy part of my story. My senior year of high school, I had a bout of being homeless. So
Mm.
I actually lived out of a truck. My parents had gotten a divorce and
Mm.
lost the house.
Mm.
My mom had to care for my little siblings, and I was 18. So I
Mm.
was like, all right, well, I have to
How
care
old
for
are you right now, Shannon?
I am 31.
Okay, I'm 32. We've lived kind of parallels. About when I was that age too, my childhood home was foreclosed about that same time. I was never living in a car. Keep going. Wow.
It was a rough time.
I can't even imagine.
But I think having cosmetology, I was like, all right, well, I can either live out of a car for the rest of my life or I can like figure
Go
this
for
out.
it. Hmm.
So I went for an interview. I had to borrow somebody else's shoes for my interview.
Oh.
And I got the job on the spot and I started working. And I think it's funny when you graduate school, you think you know everything, right? So I was like, I'm going
Oh
to
my
nail
God,
this.
you really think you know everything. You're like, I don't need to assist. I could do anything right now.
Yep,
Yeah.
I'm going to nail it. I'm going to do
The
amazing.
audacity, I know.
Ugh. And I just remember getting my butt kicked, really.
Hmm.
But it was so good for me. I remember at the time hating it, but now that I look back and I'm like, I am so thankful
Absolutely.
that I had to go through all of that because
Yeah.
while I'm living out of a car, while I'm getting gift cards from I don't even know what she was. She was like the school counselor to
Okay.
go get food and stuff,
Wow.
I'm like, wow, I worked and I made enough money. I started out literally making, I think my first paycheck for the whole year was 16 grand. Like I did not make
Wow.
much,
Yeah.
and slowly just worked my way up. So
Mm.
I decided to go to massage therapy school. So I became a
Okay.
massage therapist.
What year was that?
That was 2014,
So did you graduate in 2010 or 11?
2012.
2012. Okay.
Yep.
So I was 2011. Wait, you said you're 31, 1 year younger. I
Yep.
suck. Okay. Got it.
That's okay.
Got it.
So I graduated in 2014.
Okay.
And I don't know, like I look back on it and I'm like, I have no idea how I did it, but I
Yeah.
literally worked all day. And then at night, I would drive 2 hours to Boston. I would take a course from 7 to 11 for massage therapy, go to
Mm.
sleep and do it all over again. I knew it was worth it. I thought learning about the human body was the most fascinating thing to me.
Mm.
And it just complemented doing hair so well. So I would go
Yeah.
back and forth. I would take clients doing hair. I would go into the massage room. I'd come back out. It was great. Loved it. I got pregnant with my son, and I at that point wanted to take pictures of him. So I started learning about newborn photography. I would shadow photographers. I kept booking all these sessions for him. I'm like, all right, how many sessions can I
I
have?
can't even imagine how much money you were spending too. I
Oh
remember
my
this. And
gosh.
that was definitely the era. Like when we had babies at that time, like you were
Yeah.
getting professional photo shoots every 5 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. People would be like, oh, I need like a newborn model. And I'd be like, it's me. I'm coming. Like, we'll be there.
Uh-huh.
So we did a lot of that. And I was like, I really want to take pictures. So
Mhm.
I researched cameras for a while. My husband was super excited about it. He thought it was the
Yeah.
coolest thing. So he was researching cameras. So I ended up buying my first camera and just going full force. Like, I'm
Mm.
going to do hair, I'm going to do massage, and I'm going to assist at weddings and go to
Yeah.
photo shoots. And it was wild.
But that's such like as you're, I mean, that age too, it's almost like your prefrontal cortex is developing and you just want to taste everything. I feel like that during that age too, I was like, let me try a little bit of this, a little bit of this, a little bit of this until something kind of sticks.
Yeah. And I just was so curious about learning. I just wanted
Yeah.
to keep learning.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about photography in that time. And then when I remember like sitting at the computer and looking at Facebook, and I remember thinking, like, everybody just posts words. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't really pictures, but every once in a while, there would be a picture. And when I would scroll by that picture, it would catch my attention way more than
Mm-hmm.
the words. So I was like, I'm going to start taking pictures of my clients. I'm going to bring my camera into
Mm-hmm.
with it and see if I can get good hair pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And I would bring my camera in, and I remember the girls I worked with at the time were not supportive of it. They were like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Like, you are
Yeah.
crazy. I remember having a client posing and having girls walk by being like, this is the most awkward thing you've ever done. Like, you need to stop doing this.
Yeah.
You're putting your clients out. And my client was kind of like, okay, like
And
whatever.
hearing that now is so wild because can you
Yeah.
imagine like a service provider now not taking pictures of their work? But I mean, social media was so early back then. There really was a point. I was working at Smart Style inside of Walmart when I started taking hair photos. And I remember I would, because I didn't want it to look like I was working at Smart Style inside of Walmart with like the blue and red border around the walls. I would take them outside against the brick wall. And I remember the girls then too being like, where are you going? What are you doing? And yeah, it was definitely an isolating feeling, but look at all the people now that started kind of doing that and adopting that. So keep going.
So I just noticed that every time I would post a picture, it would catch people's attention. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, like everybody on my Facebook was like, oh, she's the hair girl. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody was booking appointments with me. If they were getting married, they were calling me. And I did that for a while. And I remember I was like, I want to teach, and I wanted to teach updos.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a lot of weddings, and a lot of stylists locally were like, oh, I want to learn how to do updo. So I was like, oh, I'll teach an updo class. When I did the updo class, I did a little segment of photography at the end,
Mm-hmm.
and that was everybody's favorite part. And that was my favorite
Yeah.
part too.
Yep.
And so I remember putting it out there like, hey, would anybody be interested in just doing a photography class?
Yeah.
And it went wild. Like, so many people were like, yes, please. Like, this is what we all
Alignment.
need. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to do photography classes. So my
Yeah.
first like 3, I think, sold out.
Amazing.
And yeah, it was pretty wild. And
So now, wait a second. Those girls that were like, oh my God, this is the most awkward thing. Were they on board by that point or they were still skeptical?
oh no, they never were on board. Yeah.
Okay. So you were
Never.
now speaking to other local stylists or were
Yep.
you traveling for those few classes?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, I have no idea what they're doing. I don't think they
Okay.
ever really became passionate about taking hair,
Yep.
but like you said,
Yep.
it's just funny now how like things full circled around.
Totally.
But I think in myself too, I like knew deep down, like, this is what I wanted to do and this is what I enjoyed. So
Yeah.
why would I listen to people telling me
Yeah.
not to, you know? Yeah. So I started teaching photography classes. And ever since then, there was
Mm-hmm.
like a little bit where I was like, maybe I'll teach everything. I think I have a unique point of view where being a photographer and a hairstylist, you see
Mm.
things differently than just a hairstylist would or just a
Yeah.
photographer would. So
So when did that go from these in-person classes to now this actual online course that you have?
oh goodness. Well, this online course I started in the fall of
Okay.
2024.
Was that similar timing to when you left behind the chair? How did that all play out?
Kind of. So I started really creating digital education in 2020. But what happened was I had a big launch. It went really
Mm-hmm.
well. And COVID happened.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden it was nobody's priority anymore. They
Mm-hmm.
weren't in the salon to take pictures and they didn't care. They wanted to
Mm-hmm.
figure out how they could get a paycheck.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, you know what?
Busy with life. Yeah.
I'm gonna grow things. I'm going to plant seeds like in the Facebook group, start growing
Yeah.
that. I'm going to start growing an email list. I'm gonna start doing all these things so that way when I am ready and when they are ready, I will be able to
Mm-hmm.
be there.
Mm-hmm.
So 2023, I had another baby.
Mm-hmm.
And
Are you gonna have any more babies or are you done?
I have no idea,
Who
Lisa.
knows? Okay, there may be
Yeah,
more babies.
you know what? Right now I'm good, but also
Yeah.
I love babies.
You
So
never know what could happen.
who
Yeah.
knows? And I'm only
Totally.
31. I got plenty of time.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens. 2023, I had my next baby. They're all boys too, which is wild.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going back to work after maternity leave and something didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
And the year before that, people had been telling me it's time to step back. I
Mm-hmm.
really suggest you start stepping back because
Yeah.
I was starting to get overwhelmed with like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
how do I work behind the chair 3 days a week and take care of my family and
Grow this
homeschool
online business. Yeah.
and grow this online business and
Mm-hmm.
travel to teach classes?
Totally.
So I had him in July. I think I went back in September. October, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like also I have hit my growing point in the salon. Like I have hit the goals that I wanted to hit.
Mm-hmm.
I made 6 figures this year working
Mm-hmm.
part-time. I took a maternity leave and I feel very confident in what I'm giving my guests. And I just feel like it's time for me to do something else.
Yeah. It's not as stimulating as it once was because there's no vision ahead on the horizon.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I love to learn. So if
Mm-hmm.
I'm spending 3 days a week where I'm not learning, I'm like, okay, it's
Yeah.
time to change. So
Yeah.
I had a lot of conversations with people that I trust, with my husband,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, you know what? I need to be done by February. So February of last year, I think it was actually December, I sent an email out to my clients letting them know. And I said, all right, I'm taking a step back. So
Yeah.
there was definitely a lot of people that were sad, but there
I
were so
bet.
many that were so supportive.
So the moment you sent that email, was it like major relief and expansion, or was it like so terrified the moment you sent that email?
Both, both. I had a sense of feeling so relieved and
Because
so
there's obviously that
excited.
scarcity too of like, oh, what if I need to go back to these people? Like, how do
Yeah,
I maintain that? I still haven't stepped away from behind the chair, but I still love being behind the chair. So that's where it's a little
right,
bit different. Yeah, it's
right. If I
interesting.
loved it, I would still do it. But
Totally.
I think the thing too is that like, yeah, I knew it was time. And I was also terrified because I didn't know what my plan was. I was like, all right, I know I'm going to launch digital education. I have no idea if I'm going to make money. I have no idea if
Yeah.
people are going to want this next year. Like, no idea.
Yeah.
But I spent a lot of time in meditation, in
Mm-hmm.
prayer, and in just making sure this was it and talking to my husband. And I was like, you know what? This is the move I need to make.
Yeah.
So come February, I left and I thought what was going to happen was I thought I would leave in February and immediately put out a course.
For sure. Yeah.
But
Because
what
we always think that, oh, time is what's getting in our way. Like if I just
right.
get rid of these things that are taking up my time, then instantly everything I think I can have. But I think I've been in that situation too, where that's not quite how it always works out. There's usually some other roadblocks, not just time, that's
Yeah.
standing between you and that. Yeah.
Well, I realized that since I've been working for 12 years,
Yeah.
there was a lot that I hadn't dealt with. There was a lot that I had
Mm.
been suppressing and there was a lot that I like had been putting
Personal
away.
work you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Mm.
So when I left behind the chair, all of a sudden, all of these things were coming to me. And I was like, oh crap, I have to deal with
Cleared out
this.
some space. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
they
have to deal with
presented
this.
themselves.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I took my family with me to teach classes. So in June, we went to Syracuse, taught a hair class.
Mm-hmm.
In September, we went to New Jersey, taught a few hair classes. And I took them with me, which was awesome.
Do you guys just
And
make vacations out of it? And then the kids are
yeah,
homeschooled. So why the
yeah,
heck not?
yeah. When we went to Syracuse, we like went to Niagara Falls and they got
Oh,
to learn all
fun.
about that. I'm like, you learn
tie that
so
in.
much when you get to visit places.
Yeah.
So why not? So that was really awesome. So we still did a lot of things. I still had a lot of progress, but it really was the fall that I was like, all right, I'm ready to dive in again. And I'm feeling much better and I'm feeling much more centered and much more healed after dealing with all of these things. So
what a cool moment in time then for us to get to connect. Because obviously, I launched the podcast a little over a year ago. You've been on the list since the moment I created it, but it makes sense now why it has waited.
thank you.
If you don't feel comfortable going into some of the personal stuff, we absolutely don't have to, especially if it's still too fresh. But if you are comfortable with it, do you want to share some of those things that came up when there was nothing else distracting you and taking your time?
Yeah, I'm okay with talking about that.
Okay.
So there's a lot that came up, but
yeah.
I would say I've always been a person that has to stay busy. I never knew why. And people would always point that out to me. Like, why do you always have to stay busy? And I'm like, well, I love learning, which I do. But I realized it was because I was pushing off the things that I needed to deal with. So a lot of it had to do with when my parents did divorce. There was a lot of hurt. There was a lot of healing that needed to happen. And also, I was young. I didn't understand how to fully process it.
Yeah, that shit sticks in an 18-year-old body as you continue to grow. Yeah.
Motherhood trauma. So when I say motherhood trauma, COVID was a rough time to have a baby. I mean, it was a rough time for everybody, but to have a baby, I felt like I was getting swung at left and right. It was like, it was hard enough to deal with COVID, never mind being pregnant, having to wear a mask and a face shield while you're pregnant, running up and down stairs, doing massage. Like,
it really was such a crazy time.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I think we all just kind of almost forgot about how crazy it was.
It was wild. And then I got the opportunity to go to a new salon, and I did. And through that, I lost a lot of friends. I lost a huge amount of friends, and I felt like they were my support system. So that was a big struggle. And I also received a lot of judgment. And the hard part about that was the judgment was from people who were not moms. So they had no idea what I was going through and what I was dealing with. So when I was 36 weeks pregnant, I switched out of the hospital to a birth center because the hospital was at that moment saying, we're going to have the worst winter. I had him in December of 2020. We're going to have the worst winter. Your husband might not be able to be here.
Oh my God.
If your baby, or if you test positive for COVID, we're going to separate you and your baby.
Oh my
also,
God.
you have to lay in the bed while you're in labor and wear a mask. Like, you can't walk around. And I was like, heck no. Like,
what is going on?
I would rather have a car baby than do that. So I one morning woke up and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I literally cannot give birth in this hospital. And so I said to my husband, do you think I'm crazy if I want to switch to a birth center? And he was like, no, if that's what you feel comfortable with, do it.
Yeah.
So I went and interviewed them, and I felt so comfortable, so relaxed, so peaceful about it. I switched, had my baby. It was the most beautiful birth. And I feel like it healed me from my first two births, which were hospital births and didn't go the best. I wasn't even sure if I was going to have a third. So the fact that I had this beautiful experience, I just realized how much healing had happened during then and how much I had to process. And the first time I learned to advocate for myself, or the third time I should say, the third time I learned to advocate for myself, and the last time I really had just another beautiful experience. So I felt like when I left, I had to process the friends that I didn't have. And I also think that was so needed. But what I recognized was how much I was leaning on these people. When I needed to make a decision, I would ask all of them first.
Codependency. Yeah.
Yep. I just couldn't trust myself. So when these friends had left me, I was devastated. And I was like, why is this happening in my support system? And these people that were in my wedding and had been with me through all of these things that I've gone through, like, what do I do now? But I really leaned into trusting myself and also recognizing that new people are coming into my life.
Totally.
And also, these new people coming into my life are so much more aligned. Like, we're on the same page with things, and we can have better conversations. And my lack mindset is so much better. You know,
that healing journey, what did that consist of for you? Was that therapy? Was that energetic stuff? Was that faith stuff? What was that?
Oh my gosh, so much. That's a really good question too. I would say a lot of quiet time.
Okay.
Which I've never really had because I was working with children. So I still have children, but I was dedicating space and time.
I call that white space.
Oh, I needed it.
It's medicine.
And there was just so much that came to me in that period of time. So I would say quiet time, meditation, definitely prayer, and therapy too. I think
Yeah,
everybody needs therapy, but that has been
totally.
hugely helpful, and taking care of myself. So
Mm,
I get regular massages.
mm-hmm.
I was doing like pelvic floor. Like there was a lot of things that I was doing to bring myself
Yeah.
back up to speed.
So what I'm hearing you say, obviously, I love the specifics of what other people can test and try, but a lot of it was just intentionality. Like you were just like, you noticed it. There was nothing else to lean on, to distract, to use it as an excuse. This is why I can't face this now. You just notice, like, okay, it is time for me to deal with this, and then set the intention of like, I'm going to get really clear on like working through these things as they come up. And then you said around fall, you were like, okay, I'm really ready to do
Yep.
this. So what is the Hair Photography Academy? What's inside of it? Tell me everything.
Okay, so the Hair Photography Academy is an A to Z transformation. It takes stylists who are not confident and like feel awkward around their clients and don't know what to do and maybe have
Hmm.
bad lighting, and it teaches them all of the things they need to know. So lighting, posing, things that you don't know that you need to know, but that you really need to know about hair photography,
Totally.
like what people need to wear, like all these things, editing. And it creates a complete transformation in them. So that way, by the end of it, they know what to do. They know what lighting to use at night. They know exactly where to position their clients, what angles to take things from, and they feel a lot more confident and actually have a good time taking pictures.
And so, I mean, if anyone who's feeling like, and what that turns into is social media marketing, website photos, word of mouth from documenting your work in the best light that you possibly can. That's amazing. I love that so
Yeah.
much. So, how long would you say it takes someone to go through the entire academy?
I like to give people 6 months.
Okay.
And
So
we
it's a
have
lot, it's
monthly,
beefy.
yeah, it's beefy.
Yeah.
And I do think it takes time to practice this muscle memory and
Hmm.
again see the transformation in yourself. I could give you all the tips, but if you don't actually take the time to thoroughly practice it, then
Hmm.
you're not going to learn anything. So
Yeah.
I like to make it step by step, and then in between each we actually have coaching calls where we all get together and we
Awesome.
we troubleshoot. If somebody's like,
Awesome.
you taught me this but I'm still struggling with it, then we walk through it.
And then we talked about this before I hit record. I was kind of asking where you wanted to send people, and you mentioned the Facebook group. Another thing that I think I've felt drawn to you over the years, or like a little spot that we connected on, and I noticed you put it on your Instagram story just the other day, that you made a commitment to do one teeny tiny thing every day that makes a difference. And I was thinking back to when you were saying you were in this in-between phase, but during that, while you were very much not work focused, you were doing these tiny little things, planting these teeny tiny seeds that now we can talk about this Facebook group that you have. Because as soon as you said, I was like, yeah, there's like a lot of people in there, isn't there? You're like, yeah, like 35,000 people, which is bonkers. But I have always had that same mentality, and I call them needle movers. But if I can do even one thing today that even just microscopically moves the needle forward, if I can do that every single day of my life, and I've probably been doing it honestly for the last maybe 9 years, 10 years, I know the compounding effect of that is going to pay off in the long run. Some days it's not a needle mover, it's like a massive shift, but a lot of the days it's just a microscopic thing. So if you have anything else you want to chat about that, please feel free to chime in on your thought process on that, but then also tell us about the Facebook group.
Yeah, previously to this year of me not working behind the chair, I think that I would just like sit down for a weekend and bang it all out and get everything
Mm,
done that I needed to get done. So being home, I spend all day like homeschooling my kids, taking care of my kids, doing this, doing that. And by the end of the day, I'm exhausted. But my husband works nights, so that's when I get stuff done. And so I made the decision this year, and it was so hard, but
yeah.
like every night, I don't care what it is. I don't care how
Yeah.
exhausted I am. I'm going to at least try to get one thing done.
So give me some examples of bigger things, littler things, middle ground things. What are you making yourself do before bedtime?
So I think it depends on what my responsibilities are that night. Right now I'm working on modules. So like if I have a deadline, okay, my deadline is Monday, then I need to get a lot done tonight.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I will make myself do that, but I will spread it out too. Like, okay, tonight I
Mhm.
have to get this much done. Tomorrow night I have to get this much done. The next night I have to get this much done. But when I'm not in the middle of course creation, it would be simple things like just responding to people. Um,
Yep.
sending out messages that need to go out, answering emails,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
one little thing that I
Yep.
could make sure I got done. Right. So tomorrow, maybe I need to post this, or tomorrow, maybe I need to do this. So, like, let me make sure it's all ready to go. That way, tomorrow I can focus on something else.
So what is this Facebook group? I'll obviously have it in the show notes, but like tell us what it used to be, what it is now, and what people will get out of joining it.
Yeah, so the Facebook group, I really love community. I
Yeah.
really wanted to create a community.
Mm-hmm.
So I started the Facebook group and it just kind of really took off. Basically, we share tips every day in
Mm-hmm.
there about
Mm-hmm.
ways to photograph different poses. We do constructive criticism. So we have a post where everybody can post like their hair pictures and we can say like, great,
Love.
maybe I would change this. Super positive, which I really would love to keep it that way. And I think it's amazing
It's
to
impressive after the 35,000 people in to be able to still keep it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I have to say, I've been doing it all my own up until this month. I actually just hired 2 new admins. So
Good for
very excited
you.
for that. There's been a lot of people that have gotten together and collaborated
Love.
on hair photography things to be able to connect. So I think that it's a really great place to start. So if you're curious about
Amazing.
hair photography and you are not sure where to start, that's a good place to start.
I feel like a lot of people's typical questions, is it a camera? Is it phone photography? Is it both? What do people need to know before they go to the website and consider investing in this? Will it
Last
include everything, or is it mostly camera focused? Is it mostly phone focused? What is it?
Oh, everything. Yeah.
Everything. Okay.
So I do teach people how to use a camera, but I also will say it's not 100% necessary if you don't
Okay.
need it to be. Yeah. So
Okay.
it's going to depend on the person and their goals. So we talk about
Amazing.
the goals that you might get or that you might hit with a camera and the goals that you might hit with an iPhone.
Amazing. Cool. Love it. All right. Well, I will put all of the information in the show notes, and that's available anytime, right? You don't do like an open close on that, or when can
Nope.
people?
Open
Yep. So,
anytime. Yep.
okay. So we will put that all linked in the show notes so that if you want to get your hands on that, the Facebook group is free. So why would you not join that? That's a great place to start. Called Hair Photography. It will be
Yes.
linked in the show notes too, though, and in the
Thank you.
description on YouTube. So wherever you're listening to this, you should be able to get it, but it's called Hair Photography. That's all you have to search and you'll find it. Amazing. Anything else you want to kind of share or anything else you feel called to mention, or does that feel pretty good to you?
Oh, feels pretty good.
Good. It feels
Yeah.
great to me. Thank you so much, Shannon. Like I said, I think this was a long time coming. I have loved using this podcast as just a reason, an excuse to carve out time to sit down and have more in-depth conversations than just respond to a DM here, like a post here, comment on it here. So it's so good to sit down and get to talk to you in real time, and hopefully we get to do more of that in the future.
That sounds great.
Thank you everybody for listening. Like I said, everything that we talked about will be in the show notes, and I will talk to you all next week. Bye.
Bye.